UNICEF says that the latest statistics released by the South African Police Service reveal not just shocking figures, but individual family and community tragedies that have far-reaching consequences across society. According to the statistics released last Friday, 243 children and 855 women were murdered in South Africa between April and June 2022. A further 1,670 children were victims of grievous bodily harm, and that's a 58% jump on the same period last year. UNICEF South Africa says that it's working with government and other partners to prevent and reduce levels of violence against children. Well, for a little bit more on this, we're now joined by Toby Fricker of UNICEF South Africa's Chief Communications and Partnerships, and he joins us to talk to us a little bit about this initiative. Thank you so much indeed for joining us, and welcome to the program.
Thanks so much, Peter.
All right. It's heartbreaking to hear the number of casualties, both fatal and grievous bodily harm being inflicted on our children each year. And this number seems to be increasing. What is your assessment of what is happening?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's really shocking to see the figures that come back every quarter and don't seem to be improving. And I think what we were trying to say through the statement was that we should remember that this should not be a norm in society. We shouldn't be accepting this in society because it means that not only is a young child's life lost, but it means a family, a community. It impacts everyone. It impacts society as a whole. You know, we talk about a lot about children being sort of the greatest resource that a country has, and it's a bit of a cliche, but it's true. They are the ones who can grow up to change society. But in too many cases, they are the victims of violence. And often that's happening in the home. So what we see is the statistics have shown that a lot of violence is happening at home. And that has a massive impact on, like we said, the broader community as well.
So how does one turn the tide? What kind of initiatives have you found yourself as UNICEF getting involved in?
Yeah, well, I mean, it starts with early childhood development. It really starts with working with the parents, trying to get positive parenting, bringing parents into play, spending time with their children, and also understanding sort of positive parenting. So understanding how discipline can be used, but not in a violent way. And so working with parents, working with early childhood development practitioners and teachers as well in the school environment. Yesterday, I was actually in Soweto at a safe park, which we run with the Department of Social Development. There's the National Association of Child and Youth Care Workers. And the safe park provides just a space for children to come after school, before school, to get some food, to get some nutrition, but also to get counseling and to be in a place where they can talk to adults who they trust, adults who care for them, and be in that sort of nurturing, caring environment that really can then foster their development, foster their growth. I actually met Brenda yesterday, who is a child and youth care worker. And Brenda actually used to go to the safe park herself. Her parents died when she was very young. She was very much at risk as a child. But she spoke about the safe park like it was a place that meant everything to her. It essentially saved her life. And now she's giving back. Now she is a child and youth care worker, and she's supporting other vulnerable children in the community.
What stories are these young, vulnerable children telling you about some of the things that they're experiencing?
Yeah, I think it's children, like Brenda was talking about. She lost her parents very young. She was chased out of the home by her uncle, and she had nowhere to go. She was in an incredibly risky situation. But there is that hope. And I think that hope comes through these stories of Brenda, where she can get to the safe park, where she can get counseling, where she's nurtured and cared for. And I spoke to other children, young people yesterday, who come to the park just to get some relief, even to do homework and to have some space to play there and just be with their peers. And I think that's absolutely critical. It sounds like simple sort of tasks, simple elements that we can put into play, but they're so important for the everyday safety of children. And that's something we need to sort of scale up and sustain. But it's also something that we have to do with multiple partners. That's really on every one of us, as we said in our statement, that everyone has a role to play, from the private sector to government to UN and civil society.
we talk a lot about the fatalities, but there's the physical harm as well. And I think also about the vulnerable young girls that then become victims of sexual assaults. How do we, again, manage these kinds of things? Because a lot of this is done in secret, and when it's found out, families close ranks so that these things don't get exposed.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And I think that's why, well, first of all, prevention is absolutely key, but also early intervention. So having that intelligence, knowing who's been harmed, knowing what's going on, and being able to then provide the service for the family and for the community. And I think that's absolutely critical, being able to get that early intervention as quickly as we possibly can. And I think that's something that we're trying to scale up sort of more broadly. But the safe parks is one element that comes into play there. But also when children, we saw 1,670 children suffering from grievous bodily harm. And that's not only children who then have to recover from the physical injuries, but it's also that massive mental health impact, that trauma that they've experienced that will then last with them over the years and can also impact on their development more broadly as they move into adulthood, affecting not only just their own well-being through panic attacks, but also their ultimately income generation. And I think that's something that mental health impact of being exposed to violence or being the victim of violence is really has a massive impact. And we're seeing that more and more as we talk more about mental health among children and young people.
Yeah, and I guess the danger is children that are abused can often, without psychological intervention, become abusers in the future.
Yeah, I mean, I think that is always the worry, that the cycle continues, the cycle of violence continues. And again, that's why, first of all, prevention, but that early intervention is so important, that these children, these young people who are exposed to violence can be given counselling, can be given that nurturing care afterwards. And again, that's why we work with child and youth care workers to really try and do that as quickly as possible, so that they can talk about their issues, they can talk openly with trusted adults who can help them. Because if they don't receive that help, you're right, in that cycle can come back and that can really impact them for the rest of their lives.
Toby, thank you very much indeed for joining us. We wish you strength with the initiatives and the programs that you're engaged in and saving our children. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, that's Toby Fricker from UNICEF joining us there, talking about these shocking statistics, but some of the work that they're trying to do to stem the tide of this violence against children, unnecessary and shameful, actually. Stay with us, you're watching The Globe.